Hey everyone. How's everybody doing? What's up everyone? How you guys doing? Hey guys, if you can keep tapping and sharing, that'd be great. And if you can send your heart me earlier, if you can do it now. All right, guys. I hope everybody's doing well. And somebody wants to come up who disagrees with the prompt. You are welcome to do so. Okay. Someone wants to be sober, they'll be sober. I think generally speaking, you're right. No, I'm not. Well, what do you mean by it works? There are not. I think I know there are many people who go to the meetings who are sober and their lives are better than they were before. I obviously acknowledge that, but but that doesn't change the contents of the background. Thank you, KJV. Thank you. Why don't I live in Russia? Because I live here. It's better than doing nothing. No, I actually disagree. Actually, statistically speaking, the success rate is no better than doing nothing. Now, again, if people want to do it, I think that's fine. I'm not trying to stop people from doing it. Okay, Tom, you're welcome to come on out. We can talk about it. That's fine. I will say, when I went to meetings, I did at one point get very annoyed at anybody that criticized it. So I get it. Typically speaking, in cults and things like that, nobody wants to hear criticisms. And if they do, it gets shot down pretty quickly. Well, Ronnie, that's my point. My point is the success rate of it is so low that it's not, there's no evidence to show that it's a superior form of recovery at all. And again, if you disagree, come on up. We can talk about it. We're not going to. Well, no, 3% is not better than the alternative is people just not using on their own, stopping using on their own, which the percent is the same. You're thinking of it as either somebody's going to go to 12-step meetings or they're just going to keep using. Well, no, I mean, there's many alternatives that people can do to choose their own path of recovery. Somebody just simply just wants to stop at some point when things get bad enough. They can do that. Some people don't. Some people don't need to go to therapy or go to meetings. Some people just stop and they're fine. Other people need to do a whole lot of stuff, and there's plenty of in between. And I would say for most people, abstinence is probably not going to be the best approach. Um, yes, Eric, I would agree with that statement. And that's what I got out of meetings when I went. Um, Definitely got a community. I had friends and stuff where I otherwise wouldn't have had. Like like when I went into the military and I got stationed out in Arizona, I knew nobody in Arizona. I knew nobody there at all. So when I started going to meetings there, yeah, I had friends and stuff like that. So it helped in that sense, but I think that's more of a, again, as you said, a community thing. There's no caller, Swish. I'm just talking to the chat. Exactly, Eric. There's no caller. There's no caller. You're okay. You're okay. The hive mind is essential for some. Listen, I was a part of it. I went to meetings for damn near 15 years. I was heavily a part of it at some point. I did it all in the meetings for a while. User rate one, pretty low. You'll hear different numbers, but like 3 to 5% maybe, something like that. Yeah, it's pretty low. August 5th, 91, AA God family. There's the cliches right there. Listen, happy you're sober, but AA sober family is a little cliche. Yeah, it's pretty low. It's pretty low. Yeah, but it's tough. How do you measure success in AA or NA? That's a little difficult. Do you measure by just how long it's been since somebody has used a substance? Do you measure it by them going through the 12 steps? So that's part of the issue. Like, how do you measure success? It's very subjective, in my opinion, and very vague. Exactly, Lauren. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? How would you measure success? I don't think sobriety equals success inherently, at least. Um, all sobriety says is how long it's been since you used a substance. It doesn't say anything about you as a person. It doesn't say anything about your traits, your character traits. It doesn't say anything about uh, how honest, how truthful you are, how much of a caring person you are, or how much of a a-hole you are. It doesn't say anything about any of that. It simply just says how long it's been since you last used a substance. So, I mean, well, I think that's good. Don't get me wrong. I don't think somebody should just simply get credit for not doing something. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I was the guy who asked you parle français a while ago, and then was like, fuck you, fuck you." Do you remember that?
I can't say I do, to be honest. I get a lot of trolls.
I was like, parle français, and then there was a British girl, and then I was like, fuck you.
All right. So what's up?
Nothing, nothing
All right.
really.
All right.
12
Do you
steps, I
have
think is yeah, it's not evidence based. I
have
think
you
it's
gone to
more.
meeting? Have you gone to meetings, or are you just saying this from like an outside perspective?
I've gone to meetings. No, I've gone to meetings before. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah. Um, I think it's more of just like just let those people hang out with each other, maybe, as long as they're not, marauding and stabbing in the streets. I don't see the issue with it.
Listen, I'm not saying that meetings shouldn't exist. I just don't think they should be forced on people via the courts or like rehabs and things like that.
Oh, I agree totally. I
Yeah.
have to do it right now for a DUI. It sucks.
Yeah, and this is the exact situation that I'm talking about. Like, and guys, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I don't think it should be forced on him. I don't know your situation. I don't know your relationship with
But
alcohol
it's
or
not that
anything
big
like
of an
that. But
inconvenience. So
no, I
I'll
get
just
it.
do it.
Listen, it's an hour meeting. It's not that big of a deal. And frankly, you can just forge a signature yourself if you really wanted to. If you really didn't want to go to
Yeah, it's not
meetings,
illegal.
they don't. Yeah, they don't check it. They don't check. Oh, did this guy actually go to this meeting? Who signed it? They just see a
But
signature.
I still go just to do it
No,
because it's
no,
not
that's
that
fine.
big of a pain.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go, go. That's fine. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you find that you've gotten anything out of the meetings, or do you just go at this point because you have to?
I think I think the way that I'm not going to answer that directly, but I think that the best thing you can get out of the meeting is going in a moment when you most feel like it gives you something to do other than sit around and drink.
Yeah, yeah, and I've
And I
expressed
think it's
that
useful in
before.
that
That
sense.
yeah, that it gives you something to do, gives you people to talk to who are like minded. But I
Yeah,
think
like
that's something that you
socialize.
can, yeah, and but I think that's obviously not inherent to AA. You can get that elsewhere. But if you want to use AA for that, I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong
I
with
think
that.
that's the only way that it actually that's the only value that it serves.
I would mostly agree with you. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
for
smoked
sure.
cigarettes. My grandpa was a smoker. My dad was a smoker.
Mhm.
You know, I remember as a kid them smoking in the living room, and you know, I have a job. You know, own a car. Um, fairly healthy.
Mhm.
Can't complain. You know,
Yeah.
not dying of starvation or scurvy. So
Oh,
you know what I mean?
goodness.
I don't know.
I'm happy to hear that. That's good news.
But anyways, yeah, man. Yeah, that's my take.
Okay.
Not
Well,
really
hey,
much, but
no, no, you're good. I appreciate you sharing your experience there. Okay. Let me bring you down and see if I can find somebody else to come on up. But thanks for sharing all that. Okay.
yep. Have a good night.
Alrighty. Yeah, you too. Take care. AA is not just a place to go. I would argue that's probably what the vast majority of people get out of it. That is a place to go. It gets you out of your house. It gives you something that you plan to do and you do it. And people generally feel good when they have a plan to do something and they do it, regardless of what it is. It gives you people to socialize with. Can get you out of your own head a little bit because you're out doing something. You're not sitting around doing nothing. But I don't know. I would. Oh, somebody's calling. Somebody's calling from the tube. Hello.
Hi, just I was looking at your chat.
Yeah.
I'm not really a big person to be part of this, except that when it comes to AA. So the argument of it not being evidence based, I guess I can't really argue with that.
Uh-huh.
But I've personally had a lot of success, and I think you perhaps might be missing a little bit of the point, and that is it's simply an opportunity. Number one, for folks who are struggling, they don't even have to be sober, right? It's an opportunity for them, but more importantly, for the people who are in the rooms of AA, it's very important for them to see someone come in who is totally screwed up and remember what they were like so they can avoid it. So it's a double-headed value. One is it helps the drunk or the abuser because they can see people who have been through something that they're going through. But as importantly, for the people who are in sobriety, it helps them remember what they were like without actually having to go out and relapse.
And that comes off almost as like you're using them for your benefit.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I mean,
yeah, there's no question.
yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, man.
Why not?
But okay, but here's the thing. You said that when you go, you don't even have to not drink, right? But I mean,
yeah,
right. But the one requirement,
sometimes it's better when
the one requirement of AA is obviously to have a desire to stop drinking, right? If you don't have a desire to stop
A
drinking, then
desire.
yeah, you got to have a desire to stop drinking. Whether you still drink or not, you just have a desire, right? But ultimately, at the end of the day, the goal is to get sober, of course. And then go through 12 steps, so on and so forth.
Yeah, but for instance, so one of the primary things is to get a sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people who don't realize is that's, yes, for the sponsor to help the person, but only to show them the path. They have to walk it. But more importantly, when the sponsor is trying to help someone, they're actually helping themselves. They're actually staying sober, because it's very hard for a human being to tell someone else how to do something the right way and not be an example of it, because you have dissonance, right? You have some kind of a, I can't say to a kid or my kids, don't lie and then turn around and be a liar. So you actually reinforce your own ability to stay sober. So like I said, there's a huge value to the people, even if the courts tell them to go in there and sign a piece of paper. When they come in there and they act however they're going to act, good or bad, it's chances are people in that room will be like, that was me. I forgot how much of an asshole I was, or I forgot how much of a abuser or a thief or emotional drain that I was. And I will say, on the good side, I've been sober today,
mm-hmm.
and I've had a number of todays in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched, my friends I grew up with, I mean, they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Or one of us was an IV, heroin user
mm-hmm.
for years. And, I mean, those are the consequences of getting this wrong. It's not like you just had a bad day. And so I would only say that anything that works is great, even if it's working for the people who, like you mentioned, are kind of selfishly doing it
mm-hmm.
so that they can stay sober.
Yeah. So again, I want to make it clear. Like, I don't know how long you've been listening for. Like, I went to meetings from 2010 to almost 2015. Yeah. So like nearly like 15 years I went to meetings for. I had a couple like tiny relapses in there, but for the most part I was sober most of those 15 years going to meetings. Listen, I'll say, like, this isn't necessarily about my personal experience. I actually had a relatively good experience. I did all the things that was asked. I went through steps, took people through steps. I did a lot of service work. I did kind of all that stuff. I guess I have a lot of issues with 12-step meetings, but like, as you know, the success rate is very, very low, right? But that's not even necessarily specific to AA, though. That's just recovery stuff in general, right? Like, people have a hard time getting sober. It's not always easy. My thing is that, like, it's not a one size fits all approach, and with AA, it forces you to be in a one size fits all approach. And I think that could be harmful for people that don't necessarily need abstinence, or maybe that's not the best approach for them. And I think having that be heavily instilled in them can be harmful to a degree over time, personally.
Yeah, I definitely think it screws up your partying. Like, there's a guilt aspect.
But that's not good. You shouldn't. I know, but that's not good. I don't think you should. I don't think that guilt should be there, though. And the problem is, when people relapse, there's an immense amount of guilt because they have to, quote unquote, start over. And I think that's a really harmful ideology to have, that you have to, like, quote unquote, start over just because you took a drink or you did this or did that. Like, I think what that does, that mindset, it forces people to make the most of the relapse and to go like balls deep with it, just because if they're going to relapse, might as well make the most of it. If the end result's going to be the same thing, and I think inherently, whether this is the intention or not, people's value in AA, NA, whatever A you want to say, is attached to their sobriety, right? People look up to somebody who has a year, 10 years, 20 years, right? And I understand they're not always going to be the best person, but people hear 20 years and they think that person has all this wisdom and knowledge, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, maybe they're an awful person, right? Like, you not drinking doesn't make you a good person inherently. Right. And I'm sure you've seen this. There are plenty of people who have 20, 15, 20 years sober who've done awful fucking things in their life.
Well, I don't think it separates them from being, but I do believe it is a path in the direction. And oftentimes in the meetings, there's accountability to not being an asshole. I remember one meeting, where people, would use profanity. And And then other people would make comments and simply say, the use of profanity in your day-to-day vocabulary is simply laziness. You're actually trying to alienate people from you. And I would say this too. It's a way, like you go to all men's meetings or all women's meetings, and I really think it was a way for people to be direct and critical and not nice. I mean, I remember, and I don't know if they still do because I haven't been to meetings in a while. I'll be honest.
Okay.
I'm not a great practitioner. I don't use drugs or alcohol, but I remember one, where you'd say, "Oh, hey, I got 30 days," and someone would say, "Well, you'll never make 60," or someone would say, "I have a year," and they'll be like, "Well, there's no way you're going to make 2 years." And literally, for spite, people would go and try to get to 2 years and come back and be like, "I told you I told you I could do it." But in the end, it was really about the destruction. Let's face it, people under the influence of drugs and alcohol, at a certain level, there's destruction there. And I would ask this from you. So if you think AA is not the right solution, and it does have guilt, and there's definitely drawbacks, but it's almost like capitalism. Capitalism's horrible, but it's the best we got. And that might be a whole different argument, but the point, the logical
different
point
topic.
is, so what do you suggest it might be a better default for judges to assign to people who are, repeat offenders?
First of all, it's a good question, but secondly, I don't think there is a best approach. I think an approach for one person may be very different than an approach for another. I think it is very uniquely based. I think there are other good things out there, but I wouldn't necessarily force it on people. Like I've been to SMART meetings before. I don't know if you heard of those. I think those are good, but I also wouldn't make those court mandated either. I think everybody's own path of recovery is again going to be very individually based, and I think people should choose their own path of recovery based on their personal needs, based on their personal, whatever it might be.
Would you say that path of recovery is inherently based on someone's ability to think and successfully come to a conclusion that's in their best interest? And I would argue that every person who's been affiliated or close to AA has probably gone through every decision they could make, and the best solution that they could possibly do after every decision was to still end up having to go to AA, right? So their decision making is broken.
I see it now. I heavily disagree with. I think treating newcomers as if they're like incapable, like newborn babies that can't make any decisions, I think is also relatively harmful. I think when people are not ready to make their life better, I don't want to say manipulating them, but like if you convince somebody that they know nothing, that's a very easy way to convince them to do things that they may not necessarily want to do, or things that may not necessarily be best for them.
I agree completely, and I would say the entire recovery addiction industry, right? Everybody's getting paid. So really, what's their incentive for a therapist or a medical professional who gives you drugs versus a completely volunteer network? The incentive structure is also very perverted outside of the volunteer system. So I don't think that can be tossed aside. My incentive to go to work is not because I'm here to help people. It's because you pay me money. But perhaps going to AA, my incentive is to try to stay sober, and we can all agree that that's a common goal.
But I think to insinuate that anybody in that works even loosely in recovery, whether they're a therapist or some sort of doctor, only does stuff strictly for money, I think is also not. I don't think it's accurate at all.
True. But it is a factor that you don't have to really deal with in AA. There's a question, let's say. In AA, like nobody's going to AA because they're making bank.
Okay, no, there may not be an incentive of that though. But still, I think still therapists would, like some therapist or a counselor, whoever it might be, they're not talking to you just to hope to get you as a client or whatever it might be, just so they can have money. But they have plenty of clients. I don't think that's something that's going to affect their decision making. I highly doubt it would, at least.
Yeah.
Um,
I can't say. Yeah.
And also to another issue that I have with 12-step meetings, I understand this is not the same meeting to meeting, and it's not even the same within people of the meetings, but it's heavily frowned upon if somebody is, say, on Suboxone or, say, methadone or sometimes whatever maybe other medication that they may need. I think that's also very harmful because those are very good harm reduction methods for some people that help them stay away from their drug of choice. And I think insinuating that somebody is like not quote unquote sober or somebody can't talk at a meeting because they're on Suboxone or methadone, I think that really discourages people from having harm reduction methods.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I would never argue with that. I think if a medical professional prescribes medicine, then unless I'm another medical professional, which I'm not, then I don't have a place to say. I will say though that sometimes people can be disruptive in meetings, and to your point, the longevity of sobriety may or may not have a lot of value because in the end, right, it's about one day at a time. I mean, that is the foundation. And it's kind of like either you're working towards or away from a particular addiction. And I think the scary thing is, like I said, I've lived my life, most of it, and my friends who, man, we had a hell of a lot of fun, did a lot of things, and they're dying, and they're being affected by this. And I almost would say it's almost scary because let's say I'm listening to your show and I'm like, yeah, maybe AA is not right for me. Maybe I'm going to go out and
but listen, that's I don't mean to sound rude here, but if that's what you take away from it, that like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and drink and go off the deep end now, simply just because I criticized AA, I don't think I'm the issue or the problem here. It sounds like if that were the case.
I'm not blaming you.
Yeah, I'm not saying you are, but I think if somebody were to say that or use that, I think that person would be looking for an excuse anyways to go out and do stuff. Because I think if a simple criticism of, and I'm not saying this about you, but I think if somebody was so, I don't know if I want to use the word fragile, but I'll just use it. If they're so fragile that a simple criticism of AA causes them to go out and self-destruct, I think they probably have other issues that they probably have to work on. And
I agree.
And again, I want to make it very clear.
It's a very fragile
thing. I am not discouraging anybody who currently goes to meetings or anybody who wants to go to meetings. If you do get something out of it, I think that's great. I'm happy that your life is better. And I truly mean that. I'm not saying that sarcastically or facetiously or anything like that. I just think people should be aware that there are other options. And also, AA was founded, near 100 years ago, something like that, right? And it is outdated in terms of, its approach of things. Like to imply that over the last 100 years that we haven't made advancements with addiction treatment would imply. I think that'd be silly to insinuate such.
I agree.
Hey, Tom, I see you in a request box. I'll get to you shortly.
But have you found one that is successful?
What's up?
I mean, have you found other avenues that are successful? Because in the end, you're right. It's not one size fits all. But for the help of the folks who are addicted, if you could say, "Wow, this percentage, this type of treatment, results in this percentage of success," like we would start there at the very least. You would think, And I just believe that when you mention guilt, another huge thing, because I think the entire treatment industry, if you're dealing with a therapist, you're dealing with a psychiatrist, you're dealing with the police, I mean, they're not, or they may have been, but usually not actively that close to it. And their incentives are, who knows? Whereas I think when you deal with people who say, yeah, I did what you did, except I was worse. I was drunk and I beat my pregnant wife and knocked her down the stairs and she had a miscarriage. And you hear something like that, all of a sudden you realize, wow, like this person's doing well today, but there was a point in time in their life when they were, a nightmare. And maybe they can identify. Well, I don't think I identify with therapists.
I get that. And listen, I understand that you were just using an example there, but if I met somebody in a meeting that at one point when they were drunk pushed their pregnant wife down the stairs and now they're sober, I wouldn't respect them in the least bit. I still think they're an awful person. Being drunk is not an excuse to push a pregnant wife down the stairs. Uh, like, I'm sorry, that person deserves nothing but the worst to happen to them in life. And I know that sounds a little steep, but like,
forgiveness is not an option.
to push a pregnant wife down the stairs. I don't know. Chat, what do you guys think? Chat, what do you guys think? Do you think if somebody, when drunk, pushed their pregnant wife down the stairs, do you think they should get forgiveness even if they've been sober 10, 15, 20 years? I'll see what they think. But no, I think being drunk is not an excuse to be an awful person. Yes, I understand. I've done stupid things while drunk. I've done stupid things while drunk. I've done stupid things while under the influence. But I've never graped somebody, and I'm on TikTok, so I have to say the other word, but you know what I'm trying to say. I've never graped somebody. I've never essayed somebody, if you know what that means. I've never done any of those things under the influence because, I still think I'm a decent enough person that, like, I still wouldn't do that even when I'm not in the right mindset.
Yeah, and I agree. But what I'm saying is there are people who can identify with particular behavioral. They stole from their mom and dad.
Sure.
They beat up their mom, their old elderly mom, and stole the money and the silverware. I can just tell you that there's different types of meetings. I'm specifically talking about lead meetings, which are ones when someone stands up and they walk through their life and they talk about.
Yeah. I know it is. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I think a meeting like that is where a lot of folks can identify. Again, to each their own, and I haven't been through 7 different ways of treatment, but I can tell you there was a number of years there where my fantasy every night, trying to go to sleep at 5 a.m. with the birds chirping and, my veins just
I've been there.
with pollutants.
I've been there. Yeah.
Right. And I just was fantasizing about how I would kill myself, but not get caught, right? Yeah. So that nobody really knew I killed myself, but that at least, I could stop the pain. And so, and I'm not, trying to start an AA meeting on this call with you, but the point being is if other people say things that I could somehow identify with, because I think, like you said, a lot of it is guilt-based. It's one of like I told you, I have a very good friend, my best friend, who is IV, heroin. And I do everything I can so that he doesn't have guilt, so he can talk to me. And, we partied together when we were 15, 13, whatever. And now I don't party, but I still end up giving him money sometimes because he was like going enabler. But I don't care. It's my friend. And, I don't like to see him sick.
I mean, listen, if people that, I know when I first started going to meetings, it did help me to relate to people. I was really young when I first went to meetings. I was 17 years old. So it did help me to relate because I thought I was the only person who stole meds from an old lady because I wanted my whatever, you know what I mean? Or whatever the case might be. I thought I was the only one who did that. And so, yeah, sure, I guess it was helpful in that sense, but not everybody's necessarily looking for people to relate to, and maybe there are, maybe there aren't, who knows. And again, I'm not saying people shouldn't go. That's not what I'm saying. If you get benefits, I think that's fine. I think that's great.
I guess what I would challenge you with then is if there's not evidence-based, and I can't say. I always thought it was pretty effective, but then again, that's...
But being effective...
It was 100% effective so far.
It depends on what you mean. It depends on what you mean by effective, though. That's the thing. But that doesn't necessarily equate to evidence-based, though. But how do you measure success? And that we were talking about that earlier before you called in. How do you measure the success? Is success how long you've been sober? Is success how much you've improved your life?
I think to me, it's kind of that guilt is trying to remove that guilt that you're progressing towards a goal. And I would think the goal would be to be better, healthier, both for yourself, but also to fit better into your, family, to be more responsible. I don't know, maybe just to be more of an adult. And I know that's pretty generous. It could be just about anybody, but the reality is, in most cases, folks who struggle with abuse, there's a problem. So I don't even think you got to be successful, but hopefully you are on that path,
But then I guess but then it would be hard to measure the success. Then it would be hard to measure the success of AA if you can't necessarily measure what success is in general. And the thing is, in the rooms of AA and NA and whatever AA meeting somebody goes to, generally you're only going to see the people that do really well. Like there's a million people that come in and out of meetings. They go to one meeting, whatever, and you just don't ever see or hear from them again. And those people outweigh the ones that are regular meeting goers by like a factor of like 1,000, you know?
Right.
And so like you kind of have an inherent bias because you see the successful people in meetings every day. So like from that viewpoint, it seems like that it's such a successful thing because that's all you ever see.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's true. And I think it'd be insufferable, don't get me wrong. And you go long enough and it's like, okay, that guy's going to comment or she's going to do this or, which I agree that's a frustration, but to me that's a small side effect. But yeah, I mean, I think it's always good to analyze it, but I would always suggest to see, so what guidance could you offer to the folks who might be struggling and on some, if AA is not the right fit or, therapy or something, but in my book, just the group piece and having people around you that, like you said, the guilt, I think the guilt, and it's like this blackness that grows inside you. And, I won't do all the AA stuff, but a secret shared is a secret cut in half. I'm sure you've heard that a million times.
Yep.
But where can you share secrets that are, you knocked your pregnant wife down the stairs drunk? You can't share that secret.
You can share that with a therapist.
Your point, people are going to be like, "Hey, you're done. There is no recovery from that in your mind." Whereas in AA, most of the time that I've seen it is, unless someone's dead, you can't come back from that. You kill someone, well, sorry. But short of that, there's ways to make amends.
Okay, I just think there's certain things that are unforgivable personally, but I'm not saying that person can't try to better their life. They can, but I just don't know if that person would be the best example of things. But
yeah, I get you. But to your point, I think when you go to the rooms and you realize that people have managed to have success in spite of the horrible things they've done, I think that's when some of that guilt does wash away and you see forgiveness and you see people who accept you as you are with your warts, and there's a certain, and that's probably why a lot of them keep coming back, because they know each other. Whether someone did something to their mom or their whatever, but maybe they just hurt themselves. Anyway, I won't keep up, I know I'm taking up enough of your time. But
somebody else wants to come on up, but yeah. No, I appreciate the conversation. Right, I appreciate your input. Yeah, absolutely, man. Hope you have a good rest of your night, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, take care. All right, Tom, I'm getting into you right now, okay? Hey, guys, keep tapping and sharing. If you're enjoying the live, click the red follow button on the top left. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, okay? Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good, Doug. How are you?
I'm good. I just need to know your age, please, just before we move forward.
50.
All right, what's going on, man?
So I'm coming at it from, I was never an addict, but I grew up in households like all my life as a child with addicts, right?
Okay.
Alcohol. I've seen abuse. I've seen all that stuff, right? I was never part of that, but seeing it is still part of that, right? So I went to, my family was somewhat religious, like my aunts, uncles, grandma, stuff like that. My mom never really was, just from stuff that happened to her when she was a child. But yeah, I mean, like I went to, was it Alateen, stuff like that. I did all that stuff. I never went through the process, but I know people who started the process, finished the process, didn't finish the process, relapsed, end up doing better with whatever they chose, right? Some people, the 12-step process worked, right? Others didn't work. Others cold turkey. Others didn't want help, right? But I see a lot of people in your chat think that they're mainly against it because they believe there is a religious aspect to it, and that's just incorrect.
I believe there is. I think people in AA will tell you that's not the case, but I'm sorry, when you guys do the Lord's Prayer at the end of the meeting, that it's religious.
But
why the fuck? I know, but why would you have the Lord's Prayer if it's not religious?
I'm an atheist, and when we say grace before dinner, Thanksgiving, whatever like that, I say it. I say amen. Does that mean I'm suddenly religious, or are you just respecting people around you? Are you know what I
You're
mean? Just
expect
because you say
you're respecting religious people around you, so therefore, if you want to use
I'm
that
respecting
analogy,
everyone, you don't.
you're respecting the religious people around you. But if you're doing that in a meeting, you're doing a religious thing.
But you're not. But it doesn't mean you are religious, right? It doesn't matter
That
if
might
you're.
not be yours. No, no, no. I agree. That doesn't mean you specifically are religious, but that is a religious thing, and there are religious aspects of the program. I mean,
You
there
can
are
think
multiple.
there is, but there doesn't have to be, right? You don't have to adhere to
But
that
then
the
why are the
stuff.
prayers in the book? But there are religious prayers in the book.
Again, you don't have to participate in that process to get the 12 steps. You don't.
But then you're not doing what the 12-step
You
program
are.
asks of
You
you.
are, because one of the steps isn't praying. That's not one of the
The,
steps. I'm sorry, you're wrong.
there's
Doug, that's
praying in
not
one
one
of
of
the
the
steps. There is.
it's
There's
not
absolutely
it's
praying in one of the
not
steps.
it's not though. One of
Shall
the
we go
steps
through
is
the steps? Do you want to go through the steps?
sure.
Okay.
If you're saying
Well,
higher power isn't religious, it's spiritual. It doesn't have to be
oh
religious. You can be
gosh, you're gonna
spiritual
use
and
that
not.
tired. You're gonna use that tired old
I'm
excuse,
not using it.
guys.
It's what it
Guys,
is. Spirit.
guys.
You
I'm
don't
I'm
have to be
spiritual. I'm not religious.
religious to be spiritual. You don't. It's not. It's just the reality of it. You don't
So,
have to agree
step
with it, but
11.
that's what everyone's.
Step 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, not higher power. God, as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. There's prayer right there.
Correct. You don't have to participate in that, and you can do
So then
other
you're not
things
doing the
other
11th step.
than.
Then you're not
You
doing the
are doing
11th
the
step.
11th step. The 11th step can be. There's atheists that go through the process, man. You're
But
wrong.
but you keep saying I'm wrong. But prayer is religious.
It's not. Prayer can be
Praying's not
spiritual.
religious.
No, who are you praying to? If you're praying to God, if you're praying just to a higher whatever for help, if you're praying just to get it in the ether, doesn't mean you have to be religious, man. You don't have to be.
What are you praying to if not a God
I
that you
just said
believe
it to
in?
get it out in the ether. You're just putting it out there. It
What
doesn't
is
have to
what does
be
that
to
mean?
God.
Okay, then just talk. If you want to get words out in either, then just talk.
Yeah, it's just talk. Again, you don't have to fully participate in that process. You can do it other ways. You can um a higher being can be, or something like that, can be a therapist. It could be a therapy. It could be friends. It could be a group. It could be
Okay. So you want me to pray to my therapist?
you don't have to pray. Again, I keep saying that.
So
You
then I
do
can't
not
do
have
step
to
11.
pray.
Okay, then I cannot do step 11 then. I'm sorry, I can't do step 11. Therefore, I cannot complete the 12 steps. Therefore, I cannot sponsor somebody. Typically, they want people to go through all 12 steps to sponsor somebody. That's
You
generally
can
one of the unsaid
meditate.
rules.
Meditation is not
Okay,
religious. You can
then you're
meditate. You don't
twisting.
have to do that.
Then you're twisting the steps
No,
to fit your
no, you're not.
demands.
Yeah, you are
But you
twisting the
are.
steps. You
Okay,
are
that's fine.
correct.
That's fine. That's
But
fine.
that's
And then you're
still a
not.
step. That's still a
I
12th
know,
step or 11th step.
but then you're doing a bastardized version
No,
of what the 12 steps.
that
You have to let
that
me
is
talk, Tom. Tom, you have to let me talk. You keep over talking me every single time I say something. You have to let me get some words out. All right. So listen, that if you're changing the step, okay, that's fine if that works for you. But then you're not doing what the 12-step program asked of you and what it was originally founded and intended on. That's it. You're doing a bastardized version of it.
correct, but it's still one of the steps. You're doing it in a different way. It's still one of the steps. You're saying, so some people get help with this process. If they do one step, if they do two steps, if they start the process, that is enough for some people. Do you agree?
But what do you mean they got help? Like, what do you mean by that?
So, help, like they went through 4 steps and they realized, yeah, they did have a problem. They got through step 1. Step 1 for a lot of people is the step that turns them. I shouldn't say a lot. I should say some. I'm sorry. Say some people. Just admitting you have a problem, because right now my brother-in-law, he just got divorced because of his alcoholism, and he has partial custody of his daughter. I don't think he should, because he gets home from work, goes to the bar from 5 to 10, sometimes even later, and 5 days a week, 6 days a week, right? And he's not getting help from it, but I don't know where I was going with that. I'm sorry, but it's just some people are helped with it, some aren't, some are a lost cause. But
Okay.
for people,
Good. Sorry.
I'm just saying for some people it helps. You can't say it doesn't help. For some, yes, it does not. It literally doesn't.
I think, and again, I'm not trying to ban meetings from people. I want people to do them. And the person who said they're disappointed in me, I can address you. We can have a good conversation. Sounds like you follow me, I guess, or it looks like you follow me for my other stuff. We can have a good conversation. And listen, I do understand a program, guys. I went to 12-step meeting for 15 years. Anyway, so to what you said, summarize what you said again. I'm sorry. At least the last part of what you said.
Well, I don't quite remember, but I'm a little nerd all over. I'm really sorry. I'm not being a troll or anything. I'm really
No, you're good. Yeah. So Lauren makes a really good point, and I was going to address that. There's this notion that when you go to meetings, or this is said oftentimes in meetings, I heard this almost every time there was a newcomer in the meeting, that if you leave, like you can leave, but if you leave, you're going to drink, and if you drink, you're going to go to jail, you're going to go to institutions, and you're going to die. That's coercive as fuck.
But
That's
they're not all like
manipulative.
that.
That's manipulative and coercive as fuck.
They're not all
To
like
say
that.
that to somebody who's in such a vulnerable position, to say, hey, you can. That's something that domestic violence abusers do. Hey, you can leave me. Hey, you can leave me, but you're never going to make it without me. That's something that like domestic violence abusers do.
But again, that doesn't affect everyone. It's usually people who are, different minded, weak minded. They maybe that'll affect them, but something like that never would have affected me.
What do you mean by
Uh, I
weak-minded?
I believe if you're gonna go, hey, you're gonna go down that path again by leaving and not completing the steps. Like I said, people can do the first step. The first step is enough. Just
But,
to recognize
but
that you have a problem. You may relapse, you may go back, you may go immediately to drink, but as long as you've got that in your head, hey, I do have a problem.
but people admit that all the time without meetings.
Correct. That's what I said. You don't need
I
a
know, but
meeting.
people spontaneously cease to use, or they'll cease their usage of things spontaneously. That actually happens quite often, and they'll at that point admit that they had a problem and stop or regulate it if they can, or
Correct.
whatever the case might be. But then you don't need a meeting for that.
Sure, but some people need the meeting to realize, to get through the first step. You don't go to a meeting and just realize. You have to go to a meeting, you listen, you start understanding things, and then you can sit there, and then you can make an admission that you have a problem, right? And again, that's the biggest thing, is a lot of people don't admit they have a problem. I mean, everyone, not every, a lot of people I met are like, oh, I'm just tired. No, you're drunk, right? You're constantly always tired. No, you're constantly always drunk. And they won't admit they have it, right? If they admit it, they break down, they cry, there's almost an immediate change for some people. So I'm just saying, if it jumpstarts, why not try it? It don't. Why not try? Why not go? Why not try something different? Going down the same path is never.
I
I don't think that's the best option. Some
I,
maybe it will. They'll burn themselves
I
out.
I do acknowledge there are some beneficial aspects to the meetings as a whole, and that's why I did get some benefits from it. But the issue is you can't get one without the other, right? Like like you're going to experience all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. And so you can't necessarily get the benefits without also experience the potential negatives that can
No,
happen to people as
agree.
well.
Now, if let me ask you, and I know a lot of people, like I said in your chat, are I believe anyways that they're against it because there's a religious, they're so anti-religious that they're blinded by any kind of reality, that they think that they have to be um against it because it's religious. They don't like religious so much that
I,
they're against this.
I mean,
To me,
I
that's
can't speak.
weird.
I can't speak for the chat. I mean, that could be one aspect of why they don't like it. There could be other aspects. There are some people in the chat that did go to meetings that don't like it for maybe various other reasons. Peg, did you say you wanted to say something about 12-step meetings?
Yeah, and just because I'm the person that Tom's talking about, I worked in
No,
corrections for about 12 years,
no.
specifically with addicts. And I have gone to different meetings myself
Okay.
for recovery, rooms of recovery. And one of the issues that I have, and a lot of people tend to have, is I have adenophagia due to autism, which means I don't have a voice in my head. I am incapable of hearing a voice in my head. So when you're in a room of recovery, and which is 99.99999% of the time led by a person with a religion who is trying to perpetuate their religion, and then you get to the 11th step and say, God or whoever your higher power is, or whoever you're praying to, is going to help you. They're going to talk to you. They're going to be there for you. You have to give something over to them. But what if
That's
they're
not
not
true.
fucking there?
That's not true. But when you say 99.99, like again,
Yes, I'm
the
I'm being
meetings,
hyperbolic. I don't have the
the
absolute numbers,
yeah, the
but
meetings
like
I've
be
gone
so
to
for
were
real that most
definitely.
AAs are in churches or correctional
That's
Yep.
facilities.
also incorrect.
No,
This
it
is not
isn't.
movies. This
Come
is not the
on.
movies, dude. This
This
is
is
not the
this
movies. I'm
I
isn't the
sorry.
mean,
movies.
there are a lot of meetings in churches. I
There
mean, I
are
think we
there are
all
a
can
lot of
acknowledge
meetings,
that.
but majority of them are definitely not in churches. I guarantee you that.
I don't think we have data on that. I don't think we can say either way.
I don't
But
have
there are
data
a lot.
on that, but
There
like
there
that's
are a
kind
lot
of
of
a
meetings in
dumb
churches.
semantic to
Yeah.
nail
You,
down,
I,
because you know that once you hit that step, and maybe your specific one AA is different, but you
again, I
can't, like, once you hit that step, like, you have to give it over to a higher power. And if that higher power is not accessible to you, pathologically inaccessible to you, and you're surrounded by people who are telling you it has to be this Christian higher power, which you know happens
they,
in America, at least more often than not. You know it does. And fighting that is really disingenuous of you.
that's your opinion because,
No,
like I
that's not
said,
my opinion. That's most
okay.
people's experience. It is
Well, what I
a 12 step
that's
is a Christian. It
I
was
guess
set
I'm not
up by
most
Christians.
people because
It's
I've never ever
perpetuated
ever
by Christians.
I've never seen that. That's what again, I've never seen that.
Okay.
I've been to meetings and I used to attend Al-Anon meetings, but I've also gone to AA meetings with family members and it's not like that. So I really don't know. Maybe your experience is different, but don't speak for my experience because I'm
Oh yeah.
telling you that's not the case.
But
That's
but
my
but
argument is it's not all that it's you guys are you're making an absolute argument and that's just not true.
okay. But
I'm giving you that it's a lot of it is like that, but most of it, no, I doubt
No,
it.
that's
okay.
the first time you said that. You weren't giving us that a lot of it is like that, because that's my whole claim. I'm just saying a lot of it is like that. Maybe
Yeah,
yours wasn't, but a lot of it is.
sure, but my
I
whole,
dare say most of it is.
but I was
So
saying
saying
from the
that
beginning,
your one wasn't, when I worked with it in a wide range for the entire Southwest Division for 12 years. So I'm sorry that like you have the best AA in the whole world, but that is
what?
not most
Why
people's
are you
experiences.
projecting this on me? We're having a discussion, but
I'm not projecting anything on you. I am
I
following
had
up
the
to what
best
you
AA.
said.
I told you
Uh,
I have not gone to AA for myself. I said that at the very beginning. I've been to many.
So you went to a bunch of Al-Anon and then you're telling everybody what AA does?
Did you listen? Are you
hey
listening? I said
Yeah, I'm
I went
listening. I
to
heard you say
numerous
hey
that you
hey
went
guys
to
guys guys guys
AA, and
Al-Anon
then
guys
I
guys
heard you
guys
say that you
guys time
didn't go
out.
to
numerous
AA.
Guys,
AA
time out, time
meetings.
out, time out, time out, time out. I got to run to my car really quickly because there's a bottle of Advil in there. I have a headache. I'm going to be back in a minute.
I'm
Talk
so
amongst
sorry.
yourselves. Just please be respectful. I'll be back in a minute, okay?
But
Try not to talk
Peg,
over each other.
Okay,
I've
just
I've gone to
let me nail
meetings.
something down really quick. Like if you can just let me finish something. So you yourself have never been an addict.
Correct. I'm not an addict. Never have been.
So you've said you've never been to AA, or you have been to AA
I
for
have
yourself.
for myself, no, but I've gone to many. Like I said, I grew up in a house like that, where I had my stepmom and my stepdad. Uh, were both like that. I've had almost all my aunts and uncles have had problems, and I've gone to them,
And you
gone
went
with
to
them, and
all of
gone
their
with my
AA
cousins.
meetings with them. across a vast spectrum of different religions and AA.
Yeah, my one aunt, born again, hers literally wasn't religious at all. It wasn't at her church. It was at a community center in the Detroit area, right?
So what happened when they got to the 11th? Did they just skip it?
No, they don't. I already explained that. You can be spiritual. They even say, people were like, we're not religious.
Not spiritual? That's
What?
my thing. What if you're not spiritual?
Then ignore that step. I mean, it's like, it's not that hard.
You can't ignore that step. You're told.
Why can't you ignore it? That's my whole argument.
You physically can. Of course, nobody's holding a pew up to your head, but then you're not working the program as intended. And then by the virtue of AA, you're not somebody who did work the 12 steps at all.
That's just my whole point. You won't get your tips. You won't. Your sponsor won't give you your props. You won't graduate, quote unquote, from the 11th step. Like, you're stuck
you can't.
there.
That's incorrect.
You don't have a higher power.
Try announcing in a meeting that you didn't work the. I'm sorry. Announcing in a meeting that you didn't work the 11th step, and see the comments that you get afterwards. You're going to get all sorts of comments. None of them saying that, hey, that's cool that you skipped it.
Why do I know at least 2 atheists who went through the process, aren't religious, didn't pray, didn't do anything like that? They meditated on it, and they still got their chip. I mean, I don't get it. So you're saying
I can't. I pathologically cannot meditate.
That's fine. That's you. I don't understand.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not them.
I can't. So it's a harmful. The 12-step program would be a harmful program.
I know, but
how is it harmful
to anyone? Oh my God!
You're so anti-religious. Peg is so anti-religious.
No. Hold on. There's a lot of harm. There's a lot of harm to 12-step meetings. The grape culture is very prevalent in AA. I'm sorry.
What is
grape culture? I can't say the name on TikTok, but yes, it is. Newcomers are taken advantage of all the time. They joke about the 13th step. The 13th step is a joke that you take advantage of newcomers. They fucking laugh about it. Absolutely. And see now you don't even want to acknowledge the fucking criticism. You're just running away.
No, you're taking outlier causes.
Tom, do they or do they not joke about the 13th step in meetings?
I don't even know what the 13th step meeting are you talking about.
Okay, but you haven't gone to meetings, that's why. People that go to meetings know what the 13th step is.
I told you I've gone to meetings.
It's not a real step. It's a step where you...
That's what I don't know what you're talking about.
Where you sleep with a newcomer, and they joke about it. I'm sorry, they joke about taking advantage of newcomers.
Your experience is not everyone's experience.
That wasn't my experience. I was not taken advantage of by somebody.
Never heard that.
Just because it wasn't my experience, Tom, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Well,
I'm speaking out for the people that it did happen to.
What you
it's
don't
an outlier.
Seem to realize
you guys are acting.
It's an outlier that people get essayed.
Yeah, that's an outlier.
Hey guys, it's an outlier.
That's not what it's about.
Guys, it's an outlier that women and probably sometimes men get essayed in meetings. It's an outlier. It's not a big deal.
This is why you're being ignorant, is because you're saying that it's guaranteed to happen, and that's expected.
I did not say those words.
I did not say those words. So it never happens.
You guys are so lost and so full of hate for religious that you can't.
Tom, this has nothing to do with religion.
It is.
This has nothing.
That's why. That's the entire reason you're against.
Tom, we have somebody in the chat that there's somebody in the chat who said that they were a victim of the 13th step. Can you at least acknowledge that person was?
Sure. And I already acknowledged it. It's an outlier. It's not what the process is.
I'm going to give you some homework. Okay, you need to do some PREA research. PREA is the prison grape response protocols. Okay, and you need to look up how often people are hurt in the AA rooms.
In the prison.
You need to look how in the prisons and in the aftercare programs, because oftentimes, in order to even attain your release, your probation, your parole, you have to sign out for
That's very uncommon.
Program.
Again,
it is absolutely common. In fact,
not
it
common.
It is the rule, not the exception. It is the rule.
It is not the rule.
Probation and parole. It is the rule.
Give me a source.
Have to have.
Give me a source.
I will Tom,
you were never really in meetings.
My whole point is.
Give me the source.
Point is, so then when you show up to outpatient recovery, there are within the 12-step programs and within even these community programs, there are authority systems set up. The people the administrators, the sponsors, the coaches, okay? And so often,
There are
an
bad
embarrassing
people.
amount of time, those people tend to be predatory because they know that
Tend
people
to,
who are fighting the disease that is addiction are easy prey. And it is
again, you're
endemic.
making,
It's just like the foster care system. I'm
Ron,
sorry, sweetheart,
no.
but you're going to have to do some research on this.
I think you're going to
But
have to do some
but
research
Tom,
and
but
stop
Tom,
Honey,
if you
I've
never,
worked in
projecting
but
it
Tom,
that
for
your
15
experience is everyone
years,
else's
dumbass.
experience.
Tom, you never heard of these things until now. Yet you're speaking as if you
I
know all
have
about
heard
it.
of them, and they're outliers. It's
They are
It's not
not
expected.
outliers.
They are
They are not
outliers.
outliers.
They are outliers. I'm sorry,
1
you're
in
wrong.
33% is not an outlier.
That's
And
exactly an outlier,
Tom,
and it's not
Tom,
that
Tom,
high.
No, that's a
It's not
third.
that high.
Tom, even if these things are outliers, if we take an outlier of this problem, that problem, they all add up to something that's not an outlier. I'm sorry. I can give you 10 other examples of things that happen, means that you could say is an outlier, but then they add up to being something that's pretty common, all of them combined. Right? I can give examples of, let's acknowledge this, the average demographic of somebody that goes to meetings is a middle-aged white man, all right? And middle-aged white men tend to have certain political beliefs, okay? And whether they are conscious of it or not, that gets put into meetings. It does. I was in a business meeting one time where they wanted to change gosh, I don't remember what it was. It was this thing that you read before a meeting, something about we all welcome men and women, or I forget what it said specifically, but there was a thing to change it to persons to be more inclusive to the LGBT plus community. Some guy didn't want to change it because that's how we've always been. We've always had it as men and women. We don't
Well,
need
we
to
shouldn't
change
have to
it to
change it
persons.
for an outlier
Tom,
group
there we go.
anyway.
Tom, there we
There it
go.
is.
You are
There it is.
such a snowflake that you can't change
I'm
a
the
word
snowflake
because
that I
it makes
need to
people
have
more
a.
inclusive.
I'm a snowflake that people who are
It
already
allows people.
included need to
Tom,
be
do you
more
not want people
included.
to be more inclusive because you can't change a name?
More
That's
people
part
need
of
to
the
be. They're
problem.
already included. You need special inclusion.
Tom. So it doesn't sound like you really.
I'm the snowflake because I want special inclusion.
Tom. I'm sorry. The whole point of, and you don't go to meetings, so I don't know why the fuck you're speaking on this as if you're an expert. The whole point is to care about the newcomer, to want people to get sober, to want people to come to meetings. I hate to break it to you, but if you have language that makes certain groups of people not want to go to meetings, that's being less inclusive. Therefore, you want less people to get sober. That's just logic A to B to C. Whoever's calling me on YouTube, I'm speaking with a guest right now, so call back. Call back.
Not everyone is a soft snowflake and needs to.
There you go. Okay.
Needs
so
to
you don't
have
care about. So you don't
bad
care about more
verbiage.
people getting sober. So you don't care about more people getting sober.
No, because you want special things for certain groups, and
special things such as changing the phrase of men and women to persons. That's special.
Yeah, because that's the most ridiculous thing. That if someone is that worried about it, then yeah, they need help. That's why
you're so worried about it that you can't change it. But you're so worried about it that you can't change it.
That's why it's a mental illness, because they can't
go
cope.
Go fuck off.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me up and letting me kind of go off a little. I'm sorry for doing that on your live, but I appreciate it.
No. Well, it was well deserved. I appreciate it. God, he was frustrating. Thank you, Peg. I appreciate it. I like your name, by the way.
Thank you so much. You have a good night.
Take care. Okay. That's what I'm talking about, guys. I'm sorry. Like, again, that's and he didn't even go to meetings. He didn't even go. So I don't know why he was speaking as if like this was a personal thing to him or whatever. Yeah, somebody was in the chat. I don't know if you're still in the chat. I noticed that you had a trans flag in your name and you were really defending AA. And you didn't like it that I was criticizing AA. And I want to make it very clear, if you're sober, your life is better. I think that's great. I do want to say though that like you may be in an area where they are inclusive to people in the LGBT plus community. Potentially you're in like an urban area like Chicago or New York. Great, yeah, you're likely going to have people that are inclusive. Fine. I'm sorry, that's not the majority of meetings though. I live in Florida. I live in Tampa, Florida, and while Tampa's not even all that conservative because it's Tampa, it's a city. I don't think people in the LGBT plus community would feel very welcome in many of the meetings that I went to personally. I think they would feel very, very judged. So, and that's the thing with 12-step programs, like in meetings, if it changes area to area, then that's a problem in and of itself. Like, you shouldn't feel more inclusive in one area of a meeting than in another area. Whoever called on the tube again, you can call back now. I don't have a guest up, so the person with a, I think, 989 number, you can call back. But keep tapping and sharing, guys. If you're joining the live, make sure you click the follow button in the top left. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And if you guys can send on that heart me and tap and share, that'd be great. Okay. Yeah, Lauren, To the Wives is like a very, very misogynistic chapter. Like, it's a weird chapter too. It feels. I remember even being young and feeling weirded out by that. Like, I was 17 years old, 18 years old when I first went to meetings. And I remember reading To the Wives chapter. And even at that time, I was not into politics really at all. And I still thought it was weird. Now I definitely think it is. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate you. Hey, so again, if anybody disagrees with what I have in the background, you're somebody who really likes 12-step meetings and you think they're great, please come on up. All right, let me see if I can go back to some of these comments here and address them. What are some of these comments here? Why am I talking to a guy that never drank? He was really defending it, so I don't know. You gotta ask him that. Guys, look at this comment on the tube. When I was talking about taking advantage of newcomers, somebody said having sex with somebody isn't necessarily SA, so don't correlate the two. I mean, yes, sleeping with somebody does not equate to SA, but when you are doing it with somebody who's in an incredibly vulnerable position, somebody who, in many cases, lost almost everything, yeah, I mean, I think that starts crossing some boundaries. I think that definitely starts crossing some boundaries. Now, even if they did consent, in the sense that, like, whatever, but, like, that doesn't mean it doesn't mean it was informed consent, for one. That doesn't mean that there wasn't a lot of manipulation that led to that. For example, if somebody, like, lies to a woman and says, like, if a guy lies to a woman and says, I'm a CEO of a company, and that piques her interest or something like that, and she slept with them partly because of that. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be manipulative because you lied to get laid. No, exactly, Marina. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can get away with those things, quote unquote, get away with those things in meetings because, like, they're not trained professionals, right? But yes, if a trained professional did half the things that people did in meetings with newcomers, yeah, it would be a very, very big problem. Why would I go to AA at 18? Because I was forced to. I went to rehab at 18, or 17 rather, and it was a 12-step rehab-based thing. So that's why I had to go to meetings. It was a requirement of the rehab. And AA, NA, whatever A aside, there are plenty of people that have issues with schmugs and alcohol well before the age of 18. So I don't know if you were implying that somebody can have a problem at the age of 18. Because obviously you can. I mean, shit, I started using stuff at 13. And it escalated very quickly, by the way. Jesse, I am, yeah. Yeah, Jesse, I think you were one of the ones that defending AA. I saw a few people in there that were. I think you were a little bit back. If you want to have a conversation, you're welcome to come on out, Jesse. Starting a doctor's office at age 14. That's not uncommon. Oh, that's good, Jesse. Jesse, yeah, I don't know how long you've been in here, but I went to meetings for a long time. I went to meetings from, thank you, Chris. I went to meetings from 2009 to, I don't know, 2024, 2025, something like that. There was a few tiny breaks in between, but for the most part, it was pretty consistent over those like 15-ish years. So I'm no stranger to meetings. I went to meetings in all different areas. I went to meetings in New York. I went to meetings in Chicago. I went to meetings here in Tampa. I went to meetings in Scottsdale, Arizona, Tucson, Arizona. When I traveled, I went to meetings. I've gone to thousands of meetings over my life. I was in the program for a long, long, long time. But I think everybody's experience is valid when it comes to it. Meaning, if somebody has an issue with 12-step meetings, I don't care if you've never been to a meeting. I don't care if you've been to one meeting. I don't care if you've been to a million meetings. Um, Everybody's experience is valid in terms of that. And this isn't, again, I want to make it very clear, this isn't about my specific experience. All too often when I criticize AA, there are so many people that say, well, maybe you had a bad experience, maybe you didn't go to right meetings. This, again, is not about me. It's about the very nature of the program. No, it was 4 years. No. Yeah, no, it escalated really quickly. From the moment I started using stuff at age 13, I won't say from the moment, but rather quickly afterwards, it became pretty problematic. Yeah, Michelle, I went to meetings for years and years, and I consider myself an atheist or agnostic through all that. Um, I will say though, I did suppress it for a long time. I almost felt like I had to pretend to believe in God or a higher power to fit in. There were so many times I had to like suppress my atheism or agnosticism, um, just so I can not have that cognitive dissonance. Because I just didn't believe any God. The whole higher power thing was stupid. Also, the whole your God could be X Y Z. It doesn't have to be an actual God. I don't know. I had a problem with that from the beginning, but I just tried to work through it as best as I could because I knew no other way of recovery. So I just tried to make the best of it. Exactly, Marina. Marina, when you do the 11th step, you're going to have to pray and meditate to your higher power. So if your higher power is nature, you're going to have to pray to nature. You're going to have to meditate to nature. Let's read some of the language in the 12 steps here, guys. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. I think telling somebody that they have character defects is harmful language. Like it or not, using the word defect has a very, very negative connotation and leads to guilt and shame when you engage in these quote unquote character defects. These character traits that anybody has, like, say, dishonesty, for example, right? That would be labeled as a character defect in most persons' uh, 10 step or whatever it might be, right? Um, I think constantly telling yourself you have a defect just because you're dishonest at times, who the fuck is it? Every fucking human ever has lied. Like, yeah, like, is lying not a good thing? Yeah, of course, obviously. But, like, I think there's probably better ways to work on it than saying you're defective or you have a defect. Yeah, defects of character. We can read through the steps, guys. I'm giving misinformation. Well, country, come on up, and if I'm giving misinformation that you believe to be harmful, then maybe come up and correct me. And I realize there are people that do follow me that probably are getting very annoyed by me right now. I have probably lost, not many, but I've probably lost a couple followers from this, but it's okay. What's up, country? How you doing?
What's going on, Doug?
Not much. I just need to know your
Yeah,
age for. I just need to know your age for TikTok terms of service, please.
I'm 30.
All right. What's on your mind? You said I'm giving misinformation. What's that?
Yeah, I heard you say you said that you used to go to meetings but you don't now.
Correct. Hmm.
Okay, so do you mind if I ask you what was it, AA or NA?
I would say for the majority it was AA, but I did some NA meetings.
Okay. Well, no, I was just saying that I don't know. I don't know how to approach you now because you don't go to meetings anymore. So I guess you kind of feel like that you don't need it anymore.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Sure. I've had these issues with AA over the longest, over a long period of time, and I got to the point where I just couldn't really attend them anymore. So yeah, I guess it's just something I would
Okay.
say I don't need. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I listen to you sometimes when you doing your political
Hmm.
when you do your political lives and stuff like that. But I said, well, let me chime in because you know, um, I'm a 12-step member myself.
Okay.
And I don't know. Are you trying to convince people that it's not working, or what are you trying to do?
I am just trying
I
to
mean,
shine.
are you trying to convince people? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to shine light on the issues that can arise out of meetings and the 12-step program itself. I'm not trying to necessarily convince somebody to not go who does currently go, who finds benefits from it. I'm not I'm not trying to do that. But I think people should be aware of the issues with 12-step meetings, um, and I think people should make their informed decision from there.
Oh, okay.
But
Well,
people,
I
and
mean,
I'm not saying you did this, but there are people that have gone in my chat and get very angry that I'm criticizing AA and saying I'm going to convince people to not go to meetings now. Well, I'm sorry, if we can't criticize something, then I think that says more about the person than
nah,
the or
it's
the
it's
program.
definitely it's definitely it's definitely a difference. It's definitely a difference because it's kind of like this. What if just for some clarity for your chat, if anybody just wondering, it's kind of like this. AA, if I was driving a car and I had an accident and I killed somebody, AA will suggest that it was because of the alcohol that I killed somebody. NA goes a little bit further than that. You know what I'm talking about, Doug. NA gets to the exact nature of why did you drink the alcohol in the first place? Where did they come from? That's you know what I'm saying. So I just want to just chime in because that's if anybody ever want to attend AA, NA, CA, it's to each whatever fits you. I know for
I'm not.
me it was
I
an NA.
That's fine. Again, if you got benefit from it, that's fine. But the thing is, they're not trained professional in meetings, and you can really harm somebody by potential. And I'm not saying you, but people can be really harmed by going to meetings and getting really harmful advice from somebody who's not a trained professional. And anybody who's anybody can just give
Oh,
advice,
okay.
and like really harm. I've heard stories. And I know a specific guy that this happened to. So this is me just hearsay type stuff. There was a guy who had a sponsee that was on Suboxone, and he told him he shouldn't be on Suboxone anymore because he's not sober. He stopped using Suboxone, he relapsed on H and unalived and OD'd. Because he told him he
Yeah,
shouldn't be
but
on Suboxone because he's not sober. That's
that's
advice
just
that
that's
literally
just
killed
one.
somebody. I
Yeah,
understand. I
that's
understand.
but that's
But
one incident.
I'm
That's
giving extra
it
I am
can
giving
and it
extreme
does.
I'm giving an extreme example, yes, but let's not act like that people in meetings don't all the time frown upon people who are on methadone and Suboxone. That absolutely saves lives, those two things.
Well, I mean, like you said, Doug. I mean, I know Narcotics Anonymous. We sustain from all drugs. You know what I'm saying? And it happens. People come in on Suboxone, a methadone, and they learn how to stop everything. That's just, and everyone is not gonna stay clean. Everybody ain't gonna relapse. You know what I'm saying? And when you saying trained professionals, well, there's trained professionals in Narcotics Anonymous. It's trained professionals in AA. We just
But
suggest
th-
that
They
you
might
keep
happen to be
your.
trained. They're Go ahead. Sorry.
We
Go
just
ahead.
say that you keep your titles outside. Once you come into a AA or NA meeting, you're an addict and an addict only. People gonna give suggestions. People gonna give, advice. People, that's what people do. But can nobody understand an addict just as can nobody understand an addict like another addict that's done got clean and staying clean? A trained professional cannot tell me how to stay clean and get clean. It just can't. I see a
I don't
psychiatrist.
know,
I got a therapist.
but
I
but
got a
but
therapist. I see a psychiatrist. I've been
that's
doing
great.
that for years. I never was able to stay clean until I start to hear the experiences of other people that stayed clean too.
That's good,
So
but
that's just it.
not everybody's goal is to be clean from all substances. And if they're put into a program where that's the expectations, that person can be very well harmed because that may not fit with their goals or with their needs. And
Well,
yes, there are people.
don't come.
But there are people who have to go. They're court ordered, or they have to go in rehab and stuff
Um,
like that. And so
why
you're
go
right.
to
You're right.
why
And
go to
right
a
in normal circumstances, you're right. Just don't go. But if you're forced, that's not
yeah?
that excuse wouldn't apply. And also, I do
That's
want to respond to what I want to respond to what you previously said, that some people do get off
mhm.
methamoxyboxone. Great, but you're only going to hear about the success stories. You're never going to hear about the people that try to get off of it because they were told to in NA meetings, and then they had horrible withdrawals or they relapsed on something else because of it. You're never going to hear about those people.
that.
You only hear about
Hey,
the success stories.
that's not what that's not the only thing we hear about. Like I said before, everybody's success stories are different. You're gonna hear people that relapse. Everybody that comes to a 12-step program does not stay clean, but then you got a lot of people that do stay
You,
clean. I think you just point out, you know, some facts that
you,
I don't know what was your peak of.
you got a lot of background
I don't
noise.
know what was
Country, you got a lot of background noise.
oh, what.
If you're outside walking somewhere, you can call back when you're back inside in a quiet place, but it's a little loud.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now or no?
Now you're okay. And you're right, not
Okay.
everybody's story is the same, but like, once again, if you're put in a program where the expectation is to be clean from all substances, uh, then that is the expectations, even if that may not be best for that person. And again, you're only it's called survivorship bias. All you ever hear about is the people that do get clean, even if they did have relapses at some point. That's all you ever hear in meetings. You don't hear about the person that went to one meeting and left because they heard something bad and then they started doing other things or what. You know what I mean? You're never going to hear about
Have
any of
you
those things.
have you ever did 12-step work?
Yeah, I've gone through the 12 steps. I couldn't tell you how many times.
Okay.
I've sponsored
Well,
people.
I can
I've sponsored people. I've done all sorts of service work. I've gone to
from
rehabs. Took me
you
to
say from
rehab.
AA. So you was in AA.
Yeah, no,
You did that in AA.
I did the 12 steps once through NA, I believe, but the majority of my time in 12 steps program was in AA.
Oh, okay. I can't believe you have that concept and you went through the steps. So it really didn't work for you, huh? But you was able to stay clean.
It's well, no. Again, it's not about my experience. I had a good experience in the program. This isn't about me. This is about the things that I've seen with other people, and this is the issues that I have with like the very nature of 12-step programs. My experience aside,
Oh, okay.
somebody gave another
Well,
example of something that I find to be harmful. Roxy Talk said her sponsor told them to not take pain meds after their surgery. A sponsor shouldn't be telling somebody to not take medication or to take medication that was prescribed by a doctor.
that's true.
Right? And so, like, the problem with
Yeah,
sponsorship is you could have a sponsor who's very good. You could, right? There are great ones out there who are very practical and they're knowledgeable on things. They're a very good person. But there's also plenty of shitty sponsors out there, too. And so it shouldn't be a gamble as to if you're going to get a good sponsor or not.
that's true.
You
That's
know,
true
like
too.
it should
Um,
be consistent and it should be, it should be consistent. It should be something that you don't have to guess on or whatever.
oh, okay, Doug. Well, I think I'm gonna just say this. I'm gonna drop.
Okay.
Um, I think it's the nature of the program. It's what you accept. Once you start reading and you start getting the knowledge for yourself, start getting the understanding for yourself, it's just the nature. Because of course, if a newcomer come and they're not sure that they want to stay clean, they're gonna find any reason not to stay anyway. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter. They're gonna whatever loophole. Oh, I gotta go. Drop.
You okay?
Yeah, you heard those.
What just happened? Same for doctors and shrinks? No, no, not same for doctors and shrinks. Yeah, what happened there? I hope you're okay. Call back. Or comment in the comment section or something. Or just run the other way from that noise. Um, yeah, PA, hold on, I want to address this. When I said that you never know what you're going to get with a sponsor, no, it's not the same with doctors, and it's weird that you call them shrinks. The fact that you call them shrinks, I think, says a lot about you. But anyways, doctors and psychiatrists, not shrinks, are trained professionals. Yes, can there be bad ones? Yeah, but the likelihood of getting a bad psychiatrist or doctor in general is significantly lower than getting a bad sponsor who's just not trained in the least fucking bit. She's like, I gotta go. Goddamn. And again, I will say this for anybody. There's 115 people in here. The majority of the people that are in here right now are simply just listening to me. The majority of the people in here are listening and not commenting. So for anybody that's listening and just not engaging in the comments, if you're getting annoyed by my criticisms or you're taking it personally, I think that is something that you probably should look within yourself and ask yourself, why am I taking this so personally that a random guy I don't know on TikTok is criticizing a 12-step program? I think you should look within yourself as to why that's bothering you so much. And two, more importantly, I think you also should ask, why can this thing I go to not be criticized? Why is it that the moment it's criticized, there's a bunch of lashback? If something is so helpful, you should take all the criticism that's out there, because if it's a good program and if it's a thing that helps so many people, there's not valid criticism. So then you should allow people to speak the criticisms all you want. Well, okay, so what am I saying that's misinformation? I don't think anything I've said, at least I don't think anything I've said is misinformation. But if I am saying something that's misinformation, I would like for you to correct me. I don't want to spew anything that's misinformation. Yeah, Lauren, I agree. Thank you, Tom. Hey guys, keep tapping and sharing, okay? You already called in? When did you call in? Oh, yeah, okay. They work really well for you. I acknowledge it doesn't work for everyone. But again, this isn't about, hey, this works for you, not for somebody else. This is sort of past that. It's well beyond that. For example, let's say I think most people in the chat here that follow me are going to agree with this next thing that I say, because we agree politically. So I assume you're going to agree on this next thing. But if, for example, I think most people in here would probably agree, like religion, or let's just use like Mormonism, for example, right? I think most people in here that follow me can acknowledge Mormonism is an overall net negative, right? Mormonism has caused a lot more harm than good, or we can probably say that about any religion. I think most people in here would agree with that, right? So what if we use that and said, and somebody who is a Mormon said, well, I've gotten a lot of good out of being a Mormon. I understand other people haven't, but just don't become a Mormon. Well, that's not the point. The point is, Mormonism, or any religion for that matter, causes significantly more harm than good. So even if you got some good out of it, fine, but it's still harming a lot more people than it's helping. Like, there's people's lives that have got. I don't think it's a false equivalence at all. I really don't. I think it couldn't be more equivalent. I think the only hell, I don't. I'm not trying to be rude here, so don't take it personally. But like, I think the only reason why you're saying it's a false equivalence is because one of them you go to and you like and you agree with, and the other one you don't. But I don't know if a bunch of Christians came in here and some of them said, "Well, I get a lot out of being a Christian." You don't have to be a Christian. I think most people in here would say, "Well, that doesn't mean that being a Christian or Christianity is a good thing or a net benefit for society." So when it comes to 12-step meetings, I'm sorry, but like there are people that have to go. They're forced to go. So when you're forcing somebody to go to something that causes way more harm than good, despite, again, some people getting something out of meetings, I acknowledge that. I acknowledge that there are people who go to meetings that have gotten sober, their lives have gotten better, and all that stuff. What do I say to people that are flat earthers? It's not even worth having a conversation with them, really. Well, based on the evidence that it's an abysmal success rate. Right, and that's one of my major. Well, no, I have a lot of criticism of 12-step meetings, but my overall criticism is that despite, I think still it being a net harm, yeah, I think you should have the choice to go. If you do get benefits out of it, that's fine. But again, I just don't think it should be forced. Whether you're born into religion or not doesn't take away from the point that if somebody said that they got something out of religion, that you would still acknowledge that that religion has still caused more harm to society than it helped. Whether they're born in it or not, I think is irrelevant. And there are plenty of people that are born into 12-step meetings. I've known plenty of people that they went to meetings when they were little because their mom or dad or whoever went to meetings, so they just brought them along. So there are many people that did kind of grow up in some sense in 12-step programs. Yeah, right, Seymour. Like Tom, exactly. Tom would be an example of that. Once again, if anybody disagrees and you think I'm spewing misinformation, please come on up. Oh, yeah, I can try to call back. Tom was very combative. He was combative in the comment section all the way up to being up here.
Hello?
Hey, you called in from YouTube?
Well, yeah, I was the same guy who called before, so I didn't want to.
Oh, you're the same guy. Oh, all right.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries,
Sorry.
no worries, man. Yeah, I'm trying to speak to somebody new, but I appreciate it. Hope you're doing okay, right?
Yep,
All right.
fine.
Yep. I remember that. That was the first guy I spoke to. I guess he wanted to talk again. Hey guys, keep tapping and sharing again. Make sure you send in your heart me if you haven't done so already, okay? Thank you, Susie. And back to the higher power stuff. even if you somehow convince me that it's not religious and it's simply just spiritual and it doesn't have to be a god or whatever, you can say that all you want, but it's still going to turn off a lot of atheists and agnostics. I mean, you can just simply change the language and have that not be the case, or not pray in meetings. You would have a better time convincing me that AA meetings aren't religious if you didn't do the fucking Lord's Prayer at the end of every meeting. Or if like half the members weren't people that went to church anyways. That's also part of the thing. That's also part of the problem is that, and this isn't an inherent problem. Well, whatever. It's a problem with AA anyway. So it tends to attract people who are already religious. They already have a propensity for cults, if you will. They already have a propensity for these types of things. So people who are religious are more likely to go to AA meetings than people who are not. So by the very nature of many people in the meetings already being religious, those things, consciously or not, get put into meetings. Like if you live your whole life religious and half the other people in the rooms are religious, yeah, like it's gonna spill into meetings. It's going to spill when you share and stuff like that. It's going to spill into it. Or if you have a sponsee or something, right? Yeah, your religion is going to come out, even if you try your hardest for it to not to. If you grew up religious, it's just part of you at that point. It's going to come out. How does a Christian talk to an atheist sponsee? I don't know. I mean, they have to. They claim to take their religion out of it. They claim, because I've had sponsors in the past that were religious, and like, yeah, like I can see that they're putting an effort into recognize that I'm not religious, but like throughout their language and the words that they use and the vibe that they put out, it's still all a part of them. Um, just by everything that they speak on, it just you can just tell they're religious without even knowing. And so it's kind of hard to relate to somebody. It's kind of hard to try to look up to somebody when like I fundamentally disagree with their viewpoint of the entire world. And also too, I don't have any stats to back this up, but I would be surprised if this wasn't true. As I said, the main demographic of people that go to meetings are middle-aged white men. Middle-aged white men have a much higher propensity of being conservative. So like that too also, like it's hard at this point. Maybe 20 years ago it's different, but at this point, I don't know, it's a little difficult to take advice or listen to somebody when I know that they have these political views that are horrendous. Like how much of a good person can you be if you voted for this person, you advocate for all these things that they did, but then it's a lot of cognitive dissonance. It's a lot. There's oftentimes coffee and donuts. I mean, not donuts really, but coffee. There's coffee at every meeting. Hey guys, once again, if you can keep tapping and sharing, that'd be great. If you haven't sent your heart rate, please do so. And if you want to come up and speak on the topic, if you disagree with what I have, hit the request button. Oh, let me go look at the YouTube comments. Sorry, YouTube. Forgot about you for a minute. All right, what do they have to say? It's significantly better than no plan. I'm not even quite sure that's true. First started attending various 12-step meetings back in the, I don't know, I think you typoed. Attended for several years and then moved to a remote location with such a small population that I had no anonymity. Well, that's part of the issue too, yeah. Very few people that go to 12-step meetings actually respect the principles. There's 12 steps and 12 or traditions rather. Um, I'm sorry if you're on here and you say that you go to AA meetings and you say it on the internet, you're not respecting the 12 traditions of AA or NA. So like you're not even following the program. Get you sick. What do you mean by that? I mean, I assume I know what you mean, but just for clarification. Yeah, I've heard so many stories about that, Gigi. I've heard many, many stories of people that could not stay sober at all going to meetings, and when they left that, they were able to. Yeah, no, for sure. That's another issue. Yeah, they drill that into newcomers' heads. It's really hard to deconstruct from those things, Gigi. It's really hard to deconstruct from it. Like it can take years and years to relearn, or to rather unlearn those things that are like heavily instilled in meetings. Well, there's a lot of people who, when they leave meetings, they feel so much less guilty and shameful, and like they have a huge like weight off of their shoulders because there's not this constant need to um, focus on like an arbitrary sobriety date that really doesn't say anything about you as a person. Um, and then it's guilt and shame that's associated with every negative thing that you do that you're told that's going to lead back to a drink if you do all these things. But like again, one somebody's inherent value in 12-step meetings is just it's tied to how long they've been sober. I don't care what anybody says. Somebody who has 10, 15, 20, 30 years, people's ears perk up in meetings when they hear that, and people look up to them. People hear that they have this amount of time clean or sober or whatever word you want to use, and they just automatically just take what they say as gospel because of how long it's been since they've used a substance. But again, it doesn't say anything about that person at all as to who they are. And also, from a first person point of view, it is easy on a personal level to say, well, like, hey, even though I've done X, Y, Z bad things, well, hey, at least I've been sober for 4 or 5, 6, 10 years, whatever. And it's easy to keep falling back on that to like make yourself feel better about some of the negative things that you might be doing. When like at the end of the day, like those are the things that you should probably be changing, and you should probably be focusing on those things rather than this time that's passed since you've last drank a liquid. Oftentimes, Marnie. Oftentimes, yeah. To substantiate which part, Seabear? Well, no, I mean, C-bar, I mean, anecdotes, it depends on the topic that you're talking about. Anecdotes, yes, don't work if it's a topic in which you can have data that surpasses those anecdotes. Um, like, for example, somebody says, well, gas by me is $3, therefore gas nationwide can't be $5. Yeah, that anecdote won't work because it doesn't supersede the data. But when it comes to 12-step meetings, every anecdote is an experience that's a part of 12-step meetings. There's not going to necessarily be data on those things. I mean, there's not studies done on conversations that occur in meetings or anything like that. Um, but if an anecdote exists, then it'll get stacked on with another anecdote, then another anecdote, then another anecdote. Um, I just don't know how many anecdotes of unhealthy behavior in 12-step meetings one needs to have for somebody to understand that they can be harmful. Do I need one anecdote? Do I need 10 anecdotes? 100? Well, yes, Kat. I mean, you are correct. Mine has the word 3 4 years sober. Another really sober. All right. Let me. Are the people in the request box? Did you guys mean to request? That's the question. Well, no. I mean, Steve, I understand what you're trying to say. I get it. But yeah, I mean, once again, it's like this is something that you kind of have. No, I understand, Steve. You're good. Um, but I don't know what else you can really use if not anecdotes in this situation. Yeah, I mean, again, you can look at the success rate. I think there are some studies done on that, but again, I don't know how they measure success. I'd have to look back at it. Um, but not everything I'm saying here is about anecdotes. Some of it's just about the inherent structure of AA. Yeah, no, Randy, I agree. No, anecdote evidence is absolutely evidence. And again, depending on the topic, certain anecdotes may work and some may not. If you're talking about a topic that, again, has data that is a lot stronger than anecdotes, yeah, like then those anecdotes aren't really too relevant. But if we're talking about how something can be harmful, and then we're giving experiences of it being harmful to people, then yeah, I think that would constitute as evidence. 2020. What's this 2020 Cochrane review? I think I've heard of it before. What's is it a study done on here? Alcoholics Anonymous and 12-step facilitation treatment for alcohol use disorder, a distillation of a 2020 Cochrane review for clinicians and policymakers. Allie, did you mean to request? Sometimes people accidentally request. So it looks like there was a total of 27 studies containing 10,500 participants that were included in this study here. So it looks like AA and 12-step meetings, interventions in general. Let's see. All comes except for absence. We're often not performed. So how do they measure this though? Reviews are very strong. Yeah, Ellie, you can come on up. That's fine. So I'm reading it here. It says it performed at least as well as established active comparison treatments on all outcomes except for abstinence. And then it demonstrated higher healthcare cost savings than other alcohol use disorder treatments. Okay. What's up, Allie?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. What's going on?
I just think this is such an interesting conversation. As somebody who has gotten sober myself, but I didn't use a 12-step program.
Hmm.
And like one of the things that stood out to me, this was years ago. I've been sober for, I don't know, like 13, 14 years. It's been a long time. Was particularly with a 12-step program is the language around it. I think you're right. There's harmful language in terms
Yeah.
of the idea that they promoted the fact that I didn't have control.
Yeah.
That I didn't have the ability to choose. That I had to have this program in place and the tenets of this program in order to exhibit self-control, in order to make choices in difficult moments.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I don't want to shit on 12-step programs because they do work for a lot of people, but also I see the inherent harm. Like, it's very cultish. And
I agree.
it
I agree.
it super bothers me in terms of like I've even dated people who have been in 12-step programs and they have called me a dry drunk because I didn't do the 12-step program, even though I've been
It's
to
very
years of
condescending.
therapy.
Very, very
Yeah, it's
condescending.
really crazy because I've been to years of therapy, right? Like I have, quote unquote, done the work, so to speak, to deconstruct the trauma behind my addiction. And so it's weird to hear terms like that you're a dry drunk if you don't use a 12-step program and you have no control. And they painted out that if you have one drink that you're just gonna go off the rails and completely lose control of your life.
Yeah.
And in some ways I feel like it's suggestive.
Yeah. No, I think, and I was saying this earlier in live, I think sometimes that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when you constantly hammer that into somebody who's in a very vulnerable spot that's just going into meetings. Because anybody who's just going to a meeting for the first time, they're in a really shitty spot in life. Nobody ever goes to a meeting at like a high point of their life. So like inherently they're in a very vulnerable, suggestive position where anything you say to that person could hold a lot of weight. So if you constantly tell somebody, hey, every time you take a drink, you will never be able to control it. And then if you drink, you're going to die. I don't think that's the best language to be using to somebody. That's that vulnerable.
And then all that being said, though, like I recognize the benefit of the support system. Like I recognize the benefit of having support in those weak moments, especially when you're new in your sobriety. I think that's cool to have, but I don't know that it needs to be saddled to this kind of messaging. Like, why can't we just focus on, hey, this is just a group of people here to support you, to help you do this? Instead of, you can't control yourself, and if you don't do it this one way, and without a higher power, it won't work, and if you haven't done this, you're a dry drunk, and you know what I mean? Like, the messaging is just super culty. It's really weird.
Yeah, it is. I think this wouldn't be AA after all these changes I'm about to say, but like if they didn't have the big book, because the big book is fucking written 100 years old, it's completely outdated. There's nothing evidence based in there really. So like if they didn't read from the big book and like they didn't do the 12 steps and people just met in a circle and talked about their past issues and what they're doing now, I think that'd be great. But the problem is with the misinformation that's in meetings, the fact that it's not evidence based and it's very outdated. And yes, the cult like behavior and rhetoric that occurs, that makes it problematic.
I think also on top of that, like in my perfect world, if they wanted to do that, make it group therapy and have like professionals leading it. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
that's
why don't
what
we get some professional?
That's what smart recovery meetings are. I don't know if you ever heard of them or been to them, but that's what that is. Essentially, they're great. I like them now. No, unfortunately, they're not as prevalent as AA meetings. But if you look up, if you're interested, it's capital SMART. I forget what it stands for, but it's cognitive behavioral therapy based. So the person who runs the meeting is usually there's some sort of licensed counselor or whatever the case might be, and it's just people meeting who have problems, not necessarily even with substances. It could just be whatever, and they're just talking about it, and they're using a cognitive behavioral therapy approach. So I like those a lot, actually. If you're interested in those, you can check them out.
It's so cool. I'll drop down here in just a second, but I just want to say thanks for bringing this topic up, because I think sometimes people get so wrapped up it's so weird to see all the cultish things that exist in our society. And this is just one more example. of things that were norm before we all started talking about how kind of messed up this shit is.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so it's interesting to really talk about, and I just appreciate you bringing it up. Anyway, I'll drop down, but thanks so much and have a
Okay.
good day.
Absolutely, Ellie. Take care. Okay. Have a good one. People that tell you that have no business in the program. I mean, yeah, maybe not, James. But was that your name? Was it James? Yeah, James. But that's like very common rhetoric in meetings. That if you're here in this meeting, you're almost certainly an alcoholic, and if you're an alcoholic, you can never safely drink again. Yeah, Nick, for sure. I think they just say that it's like a superiority complex type of thing. Um, I think it just comes from a place of, yeah, just, I don't know, yeah, a superiority complex type of thing. Like, I think a lot of times people in meetings like to feel that they're better than other people that have had problems with substances because they feel like that, like, what they're doing is better, and then anything else is like a less than approach. And yes, you'll still hear people in meetings, of course, say, well, A is not the only way to get sober. And yes, you'll hear people say that, but there still is that like almost underlying vibe that like what they're doing is better type of thing. Well, no, Ali, I mean, I have a list of some of the criticisms here that I have up, but that is one of them, the one size fits all approach, which completely ignores things like cognitive behavioral therapy, and then MET, which is medication assisted treatment. So, and I'm sorry, but CBT and MAT, both of those have a lot more evidence behind it than whatever is in 12-step meetings. I think there's a lot of harmful things in meetings, but I think that's probably one of the most harmful things is that one size fits all approach. This you have to be abstinence type of thing, and if you are on medication assisted treatment, or even if you're not, let's say you're just somebody who, and maybe this could loosely constitute as MAT, Matt, but let's say somebody gardens, right? Maybe they had a problem with alcohol, right? Maybe alcohol is not something they can safely consume, but maybe they do like to garden, right? And maybe they don't have an issue with that at all. You wouldn't be able to mention that in meetings at all. You would be considered not sober. You'd be considered still living in an active addiction or alcoholism or whatever, and you would sort of be, I wouldn't say ostracized, but like you would be frowned upon for sure, at the very least, if you did that. Miss Stevens. I started doing that my last year going to meetings. I obviously never talked about it because I just didn't feel like hearing the criticism that I gardened or hearing the criticism that I was on Suboxone. I just didn't want to hear it because I knew I was going to get backlash for it. What's up, Pickles? How you doing, man? A is a place for people to jerk themselves off for being spiritual and then we were talking about that before you came in here, Pickles. The whole spiritual versus religious thing. A guy came up on the live really, really pushing out rhetoric. He was very angry too. That it's just spiritual, it's not religious. That's like the biggest cop out ever. And again, I'm sorry, when you do the Lord's Prayer at the end of the meeting, it's religious. The Lord's Prayer is a religious prayer. If you don't want to be called religious, don't fucking do a religious thing in meetings. If you don't want to be called religious, don't mention God every fucking third word. If you don't want to be called religious, don't talk about praying all the goddamn time. Don't talk about God's will all the goddamn time. Maybe tone that language down and you won't be called religious. Pickles, I addressed that too. That was one of the major issues that I also had, the quote unquote 13th step, where people joke about taking advantage of newcomers. But yeah, Pickles, that happens often, but the bigger problem beyond it happening is the joking of it, the lighthearted nature of it. Like, oh, I slept with a newcomer, ha 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 ha, and like it's a joke. It's not even you won't be criticized in meetings for that. You'll be at the very, very best a slap on the wrist, and that's being incredibly generous. More often than not, you're probably going to make buddies from it. Other men in meetings are probably going to look up to you for that. Oh, Gabby, look at that. Look at that ship. Very cool. Thank you, Gabby. Gabby in the comments. Hey, guys, I am looking for opposition. So if you're in a request box, just make sure you didn't accidentally request, because I think there might be a friendly or two. Actually, I don't know if you're... with this topic, I actually don't know if you're a friendly, because I've had multiple people in the comments who do generally agree with me that don't agree with this. So I don't know if you're a friendly or not, actually. We are getting a phone call, though, from...
Press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hello?
David?
Excuse me?
Yes. Who is this, please?
Doug from YouTube.
Oh, okay. Well, I was trying to reach someone with a stream.
Yeah, that's me.
With a channel.
Yeah, that's me.
YouTube.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, my name is Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. How you doing?
And hi, good. And the topic is 12-step programs. And mostly what's been discussed has been AA and NA, with touching on a little bit of a few other things. But I wanted to say that these methods are used for behaviors, activities. I have an eating disorder, and I've been going for quite a few years to 12-step programs for that.
Okay.
And I am an atheist and a Buddhist, and I really don't go along with the language or the underlying Christian belief system that's promoted through these programs. But I go for the support and for the understanding of other people who have the same problems that I have.
Sure.
And to be able to talk about those things, I can't talk about that shit anywhere else,
Yeah.
I just have to talk about it there because those people get it, and I don't have to explain anything, and it's very healing.
Yeah.
I have a good meeting. I'm lucky in that regard. I've done CBT. I am working currently with another wonderful therapist, and so I've done those things along with these programs. And I've also done a lot of reading in my life, philosophy and the like. And those readings have enriched my life, and I have to say enlarged my heart somewhat. And so for me, it all works together. So it isn't like get rid of the 12-step programs. It's like, let's talk about what's not working. Let's make them better. Let's include more people. Let's include more issues that people are having with them. But let's not fear talking about them.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I went to meetings for quite a while, 15 years, mostly on. There was a couple stints where I didn't, but for the most part, I went to meetings for 15 years. So yes, I'm very familiar with meetings, and I would say looking back, because I don't go to meetings now, I would say looking back, what you said is what I got out of meetings as well, is having people to talk to, people that I can relate to, having I guess a social group or a group of people that had similar issues to me, so on and so forth, right? I also too is an atheist, so I hear what you're saying, and I want to make it clear. I'm not saying AA meetings shouldn't exist or 12-step meetings shouldn't exist. I just don't think they should be forced upon people via the legal system, and I don't think they should be forced upon people and say like rehabs and stuff like that. That's the only thing.
I completely agree, and yet that's what happens.
Yeah.
And so I guess I feel like that does need to be addressed.
Yeah, for sure.
Talked about.
Yeah.
And having this fear of criticizing the almighty 12-step program is not going to help us make it better.
Wait. What?
So I'm just.
What was the part you said? What did you say? Criticizing the program, or what?
I said that.
Go ahead.
I just said that not talking about these.
Oh, yes. That I agree. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if we don't talk about this stuff, then it's just going to get worse.
Well, it's
going to get worse to force people into those programs, and worse for people who are already in the program.
Yeah.
It'll make it more cult-like, cultish, whatever you want to call it.
I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying that because there's a lot of people that don't like it that I'm criticizing 12-step programs, and I'm
really glad you are. It takes courage.
Yeah, well, because I knew I was going to get backlash, but
yeah, of course.
But criticizing is the only way something can get better, right? And if criticisms aren't there, people won't be aware of said criticisms, But
I go to those meetings because I really like to grow, and I like to learn, and I have a good opportunity there to listen and grow and learn.
Yeah.
But I do from other places too.
For sure.
I'm going to go back to the books again because the books, we have all this approved literature and stuff like that. But if you go and you look at the people, we are reading their quotes, but we never read what they say.
Mm-hmm.
We never really read them. It's just like giving them a soundbite, and that's it. And that bothers me, so I go to the source.
Yeah.
And I think that could help us all. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No,
I thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you said.
You're doing good work, and I thank you.
Thank you. I hope you have a good rest of your night, okay?
Okay. Thank you. You too.
All right,
Bye.
take care. Bye. That was nice. She's nice. Yeah, Joel, 15 years. I know I don't seem super old, but I started going to meetings at age 17. So yeah, 15-ish years. Beer can put on the weight. This is true. This is true. CBT cracks you up? What do you mean it's a double entendre? CBT? I don't know what that means. The big book says you can be agnostic and join and work the program, but eventually you'll come around to believing in God. Disingenuous that program isn't religious. Thank you, Julian. I agree. You're right. The big book does say that, and I think that's also very coercive in some sense. Because Julian, I know what chapter you're talking about. You're talking about to the agnostic, right? I forget what chapter in the book it is, but yeah, to the agnostic you're talking about. And yes, the whole point of that chapter is, hey, you actually do believe in God, you just don't know it yet. And I know it doesn't say this, but like it gives off the impression that like, oh, you're just not developed enough to know that you believe in God. You're still too much stuck in the drinking to believe in God, but you'll come around to it. Saying that that's like the inevitable next step, so to speak. Yeah, Joel, you can come on up if you want. Joel, the phone number is there in the chat if you see that, so you can call on in. Exactly, Julian. You believe in electric... Guys, so in one of the chapters, it does say this specifically, that it doesn't say this word for word, but it pretty much gets this across that like, oh, you believe in electricity, but you don't see it. Insinuating that just because you don't see God, you can still believe in it. You're right, it does say that. I forgot about that line, Julian. There's a lot of silly lines in the book, and then It's been a good year plus since I've gone to meetings, so I forgot some of them, but I'm gonna have to look back at. I still have all my old big books somewhere here. I'll have to look back at it. But yeah, that's such a silly line. What's going on? Casey, what are you saying? What's going on here? Does he have a background in addiction? Not a hard question. What do you mean by background in addiction? Oh, why do I hate America? That part's satirical, Casey. But I do have many criticisms of America. I don't know if I'd use the word hate, but I do have many criticisms of them. What do you mean by background in addiction? Are you talking about like a professional background? Like an academic background? I do not have an academic background. No, I do not. But I don't think that's a requirement to say this. Just as it's not a requirement to be a sponsor or to. It's not a requirement to have a background in addiction if you're a sponsor in 12-step meetings. In fact, I would say probably 99% of sponsors out there don't have a background in addiction. My own experience with addiction is personal use. Lots of personal use. I have such a fucking headache. When did I take that Advil? How long ago was that? If I took that Advil over an hour ago, then it's not gonna help my headache at this point. It's not the headphones. Well, maybe slightly. It's weird because I don't really get headaches much at all. I don't get headaches often, but when I do, I don't think I've ever had a headache in which Advil didn't take it away completely. I think every single headache I've had over the last like many years, Advil has taken it away like 100%. Nah, I don't take Advil that often. I take Advil like once or twice a month. Tylenol. If I had Tylenol, I would take it too. If the Advil's not helping it, then it's not a headache in which Advil would fix, obviously. It could be just because I stopped gardening 2 days ago. Well, at this point, it's been 48 hours, so I think that's probably it more than anything else. I guarantee if I were to garden right now, which I'm trying not to, my headache would go away. No, I don't mean literally gardening, guys. For anybody that's going to say, is he talking about actually gardening? No, I'm using TikTok safe language, guys. Aleve. Aleve is also a non-steroid anti-inflammatory. So if Advil's not helping, then Aleve won't. Hey, user, how you doing? Goodbye, user. Sarah, I'm doing it because it's been making me very lazy and groggy lately, and just very unmotivated. Despite me not doing it all during the day and only at night. So, trying to trying to take a handful of days off just to see how much better I feel, and I almost certainly I will. So if I do, I'll probably just stop doing it every day. Well, yeah, you're gardening right now. Yeah, Randy, that's an issue too. You're hard pressed to find a sponsor that's gonna sign off on that. Is it personal as to why I stopped gardening? What do you mean by personal? I mean, I guess. I mean, personal in the sense that I'm doing it for myself, yeah. BC powder? What's BC powder? Well, you said gardening helped you quit cigarettes? Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're using it as a harm reduction, just, Gabby, I'm not going to look it up. Just tell me. Um, I'm just not going to look it up. Uh, yeah, listen, if you use that as a harm reduction technique, then I think that's pretty good. And I think oftentimes gardening can be used as harm reduction. If somebody once was using the H drug, the F drug, any hard, quote unquote, hard drug, and they use gardening to help mitigate harm, then yeah, I think that's a pretty good thing. Um, I don't think at this point it's a harm reduction thing for me. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say at what point am I trying to justify it versus at what point is it actually helping certain aspects of my life. If I were to make a pro and con list, there's probably more cons associated with it than pros for me. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. But yeah, I would say for me, gardening definitely causes more harm than good for me. Honestly, if I were to really, really think about it, I don't really think I get many beneficial things from it. Like, if I'm going to really be honest with myself, because I only do it at night, I never do it during the day. So, I mean, all I ever do when I do it is watch TV and eat junk food. That's it. That's all I ever do. It helps me eat a little bit more, which is good for me because I have trouble eating. It can help me sleep, well, I don't really generally have an issue with sleeping. So it does help me like tune the world out. But no, no, Gabby, I agree. Like once in a while, I think for me is fine. But I don't think for me it's a good thing every single night to want to tune the world out because, like, unfortunately, it's gonna sound bad, but unfortunately, I have to live. So, like, I can't just tune the world out, considering I have to live in it. So I kind of have to do things. I can't just not. Is that why I always eat during lives? Well, I don't garden before I live. I always do it at night after I'm done with everything. I eat when I'm live because I can't get myself to eat as much during, like, eating is something I can do when I'm doing something else because I don't always really like want to eat. Like, oftentimes eating is a chore for me, so it's easier for me to eat when I'm doing something else, such as this. So yeah, that's why I eat. Yes, Gabby. Yes. No, I've said this before, but I couldn't do a live and garden beforehand. I would be fine for about 20 minutes, and then I would just be really quiet and socially awkward. I don't know how people do anything socially after they garden. I fucking hate talking to people afterwards. Like, literally, the last thing I ever want to do after I garden is, like, talk to people. Some True Moo milk? What's in True Moo milk? See, I'll look that up. I'm gonna look up True Moo Milk. No, I'm happy. I mean, for a lot of people, it does help them socially, function socially. For me, it's the opposite. Yeah, I mean, every other substance I've ever used, I use so I can like be more sociable and I can be more productive. Like that's why I use any other substance is so I can be more talkative and what I think to be outgoing. But I guess to people that know me, I guess I'm probably not, but I don't know. um, that's why I use substances personally. Gardening aside, gardening is the only thing that doesn't apply to. Yeah, David, that'll be the only time I garden and go out in public is if I go to a movie. But that's because I'm not talking in a movie. That'll be literally the only time. Other than that, I am in my home after partaking in that. Possessed? Is it good? I don't, Gabby. Gabby, I will ask you 20 different times what happens in the movie, what's happening in the movie, because I'm so much under the influence of it that I just can't. My attention span just doesn't work. It is hard to pay attention to a movie that you have to pay attention to a lot of detail with if I garden beforehand. Like usually, like if it's like a comedy show, that's different. But it is a little hard to pay attention to it, like a more serious type movie. Oh yeah, Behind Her Eyes. That's right. Oh, Gabby, you were right though. The ending to that was really fucked up. Yeah, exactly, Caitlin. Yeah, I can't. Also, one problem that happens if I garden before watching a movie or a show, this doesn't happen often, but it happens on occasion. Like, I start paying attention to the fact that they're acting, and sometimes it becomes so obvious that they're acting that like the show becomes unbearable to watch, or the movie becomes unbearable to watch because like I can clearly see they're acting, and it becomes such a turnoff. Yes, Gabby, I did. All right, I'm gonna have to wrap this up, guys. I'm starting to get tired, and my headache is just getting worse. But I appreciate everybody watching. Make sure you give me a follow if you don't already. I'll try to be live tomorrow, assuming I feel okay. I hope I wake up feeling okay. Yeah, all the seed oil is getting to me. Yes, guys. Any negative thing that happens to me is because of seed oils. All right. Well, anyways, make sure you guys give me a follow. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow. Okay. Take care, guys. And goodbye, YouTubers.